Hey guys, Chrisspy here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I thought we would do something a little different and do a painting video. This is an experimental format, so let me know how you guys like it down in the comments. So I'm using oil paints on a gesso board, and this painting probably took me about 4 days to complete. And right now I'm just laying in the sky and I wanted something spooky and cool to celebrate Halloween. So on my smart TV, there is a Bob Ross channel and it plays Bob Ross tutorials 24/7. So I have it on my house, like always just as background noise. So I'm using his crisscross technique and then going in with a big dry brush and smoothing it out. Oh, and at this point I was like, great, the black was too much. You ruined it, but you guys will see it comes together. So I got back into art last year after I deleted my social media. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'll link it for you. But I started taking oil painting classes and I did my first painting, which I posted on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you guys for all the nice comments. So to be fair, it was my first oil painting, but I also worked on it for months and months. So it's like it was at one point my first oil painting. Yeah, and I'm actually not done with it yet. Because I'm such a perfectionist, I can just spend forever obsessing over tiny details. So it was nice to have a deadline and actually take this painting to completion, because if I allowed myself, I could work on this also for months and months and months. So what I'm doing here is adding in different layers of trees and sort of like landlines with the bushes to give this painting lots of depth, which is something I picked up from the Bob Ross tutorials, which is very effective. And then I saw that I should have primed the whole canvas a warm color from the beginning. So next time I will definitely do that, but I'm just adding in a warm tone right there. This second layer of trees over on the right side, I did way faster than the initial side. I think there's like always sort of this warm-up period when I start painting, and once I get into my rhythm, I just flow a lot quicker. And I don't know about you guys, but that happens with my eyeshadow as well. Like the first eye takes like twice as long as the second eye for eyeshadow for some reason. So last year, after I deleted all my social media, I also was just like repulsed by reality TV and true crime and just a lot of like our entertainment and what's on TV and the internet. So it was like I was learning how to let myself be bored again, because I hadn't been bored in so long. And anytime I was bored, I could just open my phone and go on social media. But boredom is a huge aid in my creativity, and it requires so much patience to sit there and let the art flow out of you, especially for writing. I started taking writing classes too over this past year, and it just required so much patience that I didn't have. And it's something I'm still working on. So next I'm going in and painting some headstones. I wanted it to be spooky Halloween vibes, and actually when I first started painting these on, I was like, this looks cartoony. You ruined like the messiness of the forest above. But in the end, it all came together. Whenever I watch tutorials about oil painting, most of the time they're talking about painting loose and messy and not blending your paint, which is so hard for me, I guess because coming from makeup, I'm used to like blending really clean and doing clean lines. So painting loosely isn't something I've been able to do yet, but I'm just gonna keep experimenting and just keep doing what feels right intuitively. So here I needed to cover the little bottom of the trees. I should have brought that other like valley up to cover the bottom, so I had to go in after and do that. But it was kind of cool because it looks like mist. And then I'm bringing this last layer of land forward by making it darker, because as things are closer to us in a landscape, they will be darker. So now I am starting to map out the skull, because I wanted a skull sort of like floating in the middle of the forest, and I wanted it to just like blend in seamlessly to the trees and stuff. And I'm looking at different pictures of tattoos for my inspiration for the skull. I love doing skulls for Halloween, as you guys know. I just love the shading and the detail. It's one of my favorite things to paint. So people always actually ask me if I would ever tattoo, and the answer is hell yeah. I would love to learn. I feel like it would be really cool because I like shading, like I said. I could draw a straight line and you get to trace. Obviously there would be like a big learning curve, like getting used to like tattooing people's skin. But I want to learn, so keep an eye out. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll have to do it here on my channel. So this was about the end of the second session because I did have to wait for some of those layers to dry. The medium that I use is liquid, which actually does have a drying agent in it. But yeah, this was the second session and I'm just starting to add in or sort of like map out the layers of the face. But this was another area in review. When watching this, I could see that I was just kind of lagging because I hadn't sort of hit my rhythm with this yet. So I start like jumping around to different places, which I guess is some sort of procrastination technique. So I'm still getting used to using medium. In my first portrait, I used barely any medium, to tell you guys the truth, just because I don't know if that's the way it happened. So I do like that you can blend with using medium and that it makes the paint a lot thinner and slipperier. So yeah, I'm just laying on different layers here and trying to pull it upwards, and it took forever to get smooth. And like I said, I just hadn't hit my rhythm yet. Oh, and then I love doing this, like when I go in those like movement strokes, that was where it was at. I had so much fun working on this painting. I woke up every day just so excited to go into the studio and paint, and it was actually over 6 hours of footage when I imported everything. And I was like, how am I gonna edit this down into a watchable YouTube video? But I think eventually, if I can get faster, like I want to start doing timed portraits, which honestly I've done those a lot over the past year, and none of them have ever will ever see the light of day on the internet because they're so bad. But I think it would be cool eventually to be able to get quicker and then be able to like talk while I'm painting, which is a huge challenge. So I know this is different from my typical Halloween content here on my channel, and I appreciate you guys just being so patient and kind with me. And I wanted to let you know that I still love makeup. I'll always love makeup because it's an art and it's a form of self-expression. And so I do plan on continuing to do makeup videos here, or makeup content across my social media, but also incorporating other stuff like this video. The thing is that before, no one was stopping me. Like no one told me that I wasn't allowed to do the type of content that I wanted. It was all a function of my own self-limiting beliefs, and I was so attached to, you know, my views and my performance on social media that's what held me back from doing what I wanted to do, because I was just too attached to being successful and doing well. And when I look back on my content, the stuff that I had the most fun doing was also the stuff that performed the best, because I think that energetically, like, we can feel what's behind like the quality of this art that you're making. Is it attachment? Is it a profit motive? Or is it just for fun and like real passion pouring through? So that's, you know, what I want to bring is just have fun with it and treat it as an experiment, and however it evolves will be natural this time, instead of just being dependent on, you know, trying to work the algorithm and engagement. Like that's like, once I got wrapped up in that way of thinking, it just became no fun. So it just feels so freeing having this mindset about it, because like I said before in my other videos, social media can be an amazing tool, and I want to use it in a way that's good for everyone. Prior to my sabbatical, is what I like to call it, I was feeling really held back because for years and years behind the scenes, I had ideas and I would approach, management and different agents. Like, this is like lots of people, not one person, about things that I wanted to do. And I was constantly told that I wasn't ready yet, that I needed to get my views and my engagement up. And that once I did that, then I would be able to do the things I really wanted to do. And how I internalized that was that my worth was tied to my profitability. And then so the story then that I created was that I was a victim and that these people weren't letting me do what I wanted to do. And then now when I look back on it, I recognize that if I was really ready to do the things that I wanted to do, that I wouldn't need anybody's permission in the first place. So in a sense, I'm like, wow, they were right. I actually wasn't ready because I felt that I needed to ask for permission. So it's a really freeing place to be like, there's no blame in the game, and that it's always just been me versus me, and that the only person ever holding me back was only me. And I guess I had to learn it that way, that it had to unfold that way for me to arrive here to this place of freedom. Not only a place of freedom, but a place of such appreciation for everything. Once I moved from the vantage point of judgment to appreciation, it was like my whole world just opened up. Anyways, sorry, hopefully that doesn't sound preachy. It's just wanted to share my little journey with y'all. So at this point in the painting, it's when we hit Struggle City. It was very wet on wet paint right here, which I wasn't used to. And you will see I have some trouble laying down the paints because there's some rule with like oil painting, like fat over lean. So it's like, well, then these need less medium, but then with the medium, it didn't stick. Anyways, I was laying it down and then using this dry brush technique, which is like extremely satisfying because the colors just like melt into each other. This is probably the longest I spent too on one area. I got super excited and like focused on this part, and then I realized like, dude, you got to keep it pushing because we have a whole painting to finish. And also like I couldn't resist adding the highlights in, and they say you're not supposed to do it till the end, but I feel like it's just the most fun part because that's when the painting really starts to come alive and jump off the canvas. By the time I was on this side of the mouth, I was like, just get it on the canvas. Oh, there's my nose. One thing I mentioned earlier is that I wish I had primed the canvas better with like a deeper warm tone, because you'll see that there's lots of white on the canvas, and when that white is still there, then it sort of like dilutes the appearance of those highlights, because when it's all dark and then you have those whites, the contrast just really makes it sparkle, as Bob Ross would say. So I started by laying down the midtones, adding some shadows, and now I'm adding some softer highlights by dry brushing. There was a little bit of red that came out because I didn't properly mix my paint, but it worked. So now things are really starting to come together. I'm adding those highlights, and I added those deep blacks to the cheekbones, and it just gives so much dimension and texture. It's really things are happening. Especially with my first portrait, there would be times when I feel like I wouldn't know what was happening. Like I would just be moving on the canvas. It's like, not like I blacked out or something, but I wasn't really thinking, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden I would step back and I'd be like, wow, things just happened. I don't even know where I was. So I should come up with a better way to describe it. But yeah, I'm just like, things are happening and I don't know how, but it's working. So now I found this brush right here with the red handle is my A1 dry brush. So I'm going in with this flat brush and then alternating with the dry brush, just adding that black and then really smoking it out and pulling it into the areas. And what I like about skulls too is there's so much texture, and you can really kind of improvise because it's not perfect because it's nature. So I'm just sort of like improvising these lines of the teeth going up on the cheeks and just letting it flow and being a little messy with it. So I wasn't completely happy with this side of the cheek. I was looking at multiple different photos and somehow this one just got a little bit lost on it. So yeah, I ended up redoing it. And that's what I really love about oil paints is you can just boom, wipe it off. Goodbye cheek, just kidding. And there's just so much versatility. You can completely cover things and you have a lot of room to adjust. So I liked the way the shading came out on this one. Now I was just like winging it. I wasn't looking at a reference photo, but interestingly enough, I still ended up basically redoing the whole thing, but I actually really enjoyed that part. Like redoing it the next day was probably one of my favorite parts on the painting. So now I'm deepening that black and getting, basically I want the eye sockets to be totally done because we are adding trees coming up out of the eyes. And at first I was like, is it gonna ruin it if I do trees out of the eyes? And I was like, nah, you got to, because it's like part of the forest. I'm using a liner brush and black paint that I diluted with a thinner because it needs to be super, super slippery so that I can get in those long branches and those really long brush strokes. And I really loved the contrast of the black trees that are coming forward, like you're looking through the forest and seeing this scene against the gray trees in the back. I feel like it created a lot of depth. The only thing is that first layer of trees like basically got lost. So next time I realized I think I need to make them either a little thicker or just a little closer in color to the next layer. I spent a lot of time adding different branches and details here in the trees, and it's worth it. And I noticed like at some points when it looked too uniform, like the trees were too similar, I needed to cross some over, make it messy like nature, how it looks in a real forest. I googled creepy trees in a forest and this one came up and it was like, I'm assuming it was like from a movie set or something, but it was like limbs hanging from a tree. And I was like, you know, I could do spooky, but it's like, I think that's like a little too spooky for me. But at one point I wanted stuff to be hanging down too. So I did this like failed technique of doing these like drips at the end, which it didn't even show up on camera. But I added that tree to the middle of the nose, which I wasn't sure about, but I really loved the way it came out. So this is very Bob Ross inspired, is to add a big tree to the front. And I wanted to do this because I wanted, like I said, to create all of that depth, like you're looking back into the scene. So this is that cheek that I redid and I really love the way it came out. And what I like doing is like adding those layers of smooth highlights underneath and then putting a little bit of texture on top. I feel like it really just makes it jump off the screen. And then I'm just adding some details over here, like really lightly, because I wanted it to look transparent and like it was blending into the forest. Then to finish up, I'm adding another layer of land right there. It's dark because it's in the front. And then I added some highlights to it, some bright purple highlights, and it's all done. Thank you guys so much. I love you, and I will see you in my next video.